Welcome back to TheChowTimePod. It's your host, Red. Got a video today from Chang Nation. Do Asian girls still only date white guys? New study. Please exit them below. Really appreciate that. See that Chow time.
Do Asian girls still only date white guys? It depends. Of course, if an Asian girl is a typical Lou, she will only date white guys.
On Tinder, Asian guys, they're like the least popular. And then I think white guys first.
Asian men are generally perceived as unattractive. The men that I tend to involve myself with tend to lean towards white and Hispanic.
Japanese people, guys.
I've even dated Asian women that told me, oh, yeah, they've always gone after white and black guys. And then now they're more into Asian guys after, which... Thank you for telling me you got ran through in your 20s by Chads and Tyrones. Just like, thank you.
Small, right? Dick is small.
Damn, small dicks.
For those of you guys who are new here, you might be wondering, what is a Lou? It's basically an Asian girl who only dates white guys and actively puts down Asian guys. So an article recently came out covering the dating preferences of Asian American women. Let's talk about it.
Asian American women's racialized dating choices have drawn widespread attention, both in academic and public spheres. However, little empirical research has examined racially relevant sociocultural factors that may affect this population's dating and physical attraction preferences.
I would actually say one of the hottest topics in Asian American culture are the WMAF couples.
Yeah, everywhere you look, if it's an interracial,
I guess I'm not in Asian culture enough. I'm in like my family's culture and the Cambodian culture, but overall arching Asian culture, I'm not so immersed in because I don't live in that environment so much. And I don't really have that many Asian friends. Most of my friends are Hispanics and blacks. So
racial couple, like one Asian, one white, it's like 80% of the time it's like the girl's Asian.
Asian female.
Yeah.
White male, Asian female is improbably the most common interracial couple. They
Didn't
are
know
a
this.
quarter of all interracial
what? A quarter?
marriages, despite Asian women being only 8% of married women.
I think I'm the luckiest guy in the world.
Now, why is this topic so popular amongst the Asian American community? Well, first off, I feel like dating in general is a hot topic.
I don't care. People can have their own dating preferences. If you want to date a white guy, more power to you. I don't care. Just don't talk shit about your own race. Just like, black women, Asian women, they love doing it. Well, nowadays, it's all women. Even white women love trashing white men.
Everyone has their 2 cents regarding dating advice, from middle schoolers who just hit puberty to our grandparents who have been married for multiple decades. They all have something to say. But the popularity of dating can't be the only reason why the WMAF discussion is so popular, because if that were the case, then this specific topic wouldn't stand out so much. So this is my personal theory. It would be one thing if these Lous were just like normal people and they just lived their own lives, minded their own business, didn't really go out of their way to put Asian guys down. But for whatever reason, I feel like a lot of Asian girls who are in these WMAF couplings tend to have a superiority complex.
I agree with this. I know a few that are with white men, and yes, they feel, personal anecdote, I feel that they feel that they're better than me in some way, shape, or form.
Now, it's not very obvious. I would actually say it's very discreet, but that's what makes it worse, since it causes you to do a double take when they're giving you dismissive body language, or they're making like some offhanded remark saying that like Asian guys are inferior in whatever way. Most commonly, this comes up in the form of,
I don't like it.
Why not? Tell me right now.
Confidence?
on social media, just like look at any couple where it's like Asian guy and like a white girl. You just look at the comments and there's people like shitting on Asian guys. But
isn't it weird that why do we get shitted on if we're dating white women? That doesn't make sense. The bloodline thing just confuses me because Asian men in like per capita in the United States out earn most other races. So the likelihood of this man being able to support you, take care of things, and living a stable life is probably the highest amongst most of the other men. But yet we get trashed that we ruining other people's bloodlines. It's a mixed race. That's what happens, is it not? Like, I'm confused.
more personally, I feel like somehow these loos, they always like wiggle in some sort of offhanded comment or statement that just like is like a backhand to Asian guys as a whole.
I think I dated an Asian guy one time, but it was really weird. So I don't know. I don't think I could date an Asian guy again.
To further understand racialized desire among this underrepresented population, the present study examined the extent to which 3 sociocultural factors, i.e., internalized racism, resistance and empowerment against racism, and desire for status, were associated with 2 attraction outcome variables, i.e., dating preferences, physical attraction.
I think the status thing is probably one of the biggest things. When Asians were growing up, our status symbol was kind of white people because they're the richest, most powerful people in the world, especially in the United States. So we kind of strive to be like them or strive to be in that level of success. For women, it's easy. They just marry in. For us men, we got to put in the work.
Across 4 racial categories of men: Asian men, black men, Latino men, and white men.
So one thing that's a bit of a red flag right off the bat is this study is looking at participants from an opt-in model where they're filling out an online survey. And you also have to realize that this sample size is actually not that big, right? I know in statistics class, we learned about the central limit theorem, n equals 30, but 207 Asian American women who opt in themselves when there are 19.2 million Asians in the US, assuming half are girls, 9.6 million girls who are Asian in the US, is honestly not that representative. So that's just something to point out. Quick statistics 101, when you're looking at literature, looking at the data, you need to analyze the method they use to collect the data, as well as how high quality their data is, and then judge the analysis accordingly. All right, I'll stop.
I learned this from my friend that's an anthropologist. He's like, yeah, you got to look at things a little bit differently. Just because they're telling you things and the data says this, how did they get that data? I went to like 10 people and all 10 people said, Asians suck. That isn't really a great representation. And I understand that quite well now.
Stop channeling my inner mathlete. Just kidding. I didn't make the team.
We Asian, duh.
So some key stats to know here about the study. 306 individuals accessed the online survey, but they only included 207 of the responses due to eligibility, consent, etc. So N equals 207. Participants' ages range from 18 to 56, with the average being 22.62 and standard deviation of 6.58. So assuming normal distribution, we can apply the 68, 95, 99.7 rule, which talks about what percentage of responses fall within certain age ranges. So basically 95% of the responses will be between 10 to 38. We can probably assume a lower tail skew since who's filling out the survey, who's below 18, but
Asian talk.
Subtle flex
I know, guys.
of basic stats terminology.
Stop it. Get some help.
Sorry,
let's just
guys.
get a quick
We're
breakdown
Asian.
of ethnicities.
We gotta get into
21.2%
that
Chinese,
math
60%
like that.
Indian, 13.7% Filipino, 11.8% multi-ethnic, 9%
Breakdown of the
Korean,
yearly
9.4%
income.
Vietnamese, 8% are 5.75% Taiwanese, 2.1% Japanese, 7.5% other, 2% other Southeast Asian, 20.7% are between 19.8% high school diploma, 2.5% are above 100K, and 13.7% they're just unsure. So in summary, the sample is pretty diverse, but it's important to call out that East Asian and Indian participants make up around 54% or a little half of the study. And on average, people are making at least 50K a year. All right, so next up, let's just look at what variables they studied. So they have internalized racism, resistance and empowerment against racism, desire for status, dating preferences, and physical attractiveness. I feel like out of all these variables, the last 2 are the most important to analyze, dating preference and physical attractiveness, since I feel like that's what drives growth.
That's how the dating market is nowadays. It's really only those 2 things.
That date guys, right? They need to be attracted to them and then probably prefer dating them. The first 2 variables of internalized racism and resistance and empowerment against racism are more or less abstract because they're measuring these based off actions taken in the social justice manner. We all know that doesn't really mean shit, since I feel like a lot of the girls who are super liberal, left-leaning, and they're fighting against white supremacy, well, you look at who they date, they end up dating white guys.
Yeah.
Desire for status also doesn't really mean too much because they use the questions, I would like to be well regarded, I would like to have high status in society, and one of my goals in life is to be a person of high standing. So I feel like anyone would kind of like strive to have those, right?
Yeah.
Like, to be honest, I kind of have a sense that like nowadays with the shift of loos being not as popular anymore from a public perception standpoint, now that we got some loo destroyers on the block, such as your boy Gavin Dang from Amphasia, even the Fung Bros are calling this shit out. I feel like it's not cool to be a loo anymore.
Nope.
Like it's kind of like a meme now when Asian girls date white guys, right?
It actually is somewhat of a meme now, isn't it? Again, this particular topic does not pertain to me personally. I've never really had women in this circle too much. I met a few loos, but I just didn't deal with them. That was it.
right?
I'm dating a white guy. Of course I'm trying to climb the socioeconomic ladder.
And this is the thing, you might be wondering, like, why does it matter if a girl's not a Lou? Well, nowadays society has shifted from pro Lou and Uncle Chan to like anti Lou and Uncle Chan, so it's just not cool to be a Lou. And what this means is these Asian girls are probably just not gonna be super vocal about their dating preferences, right? So they're only gonna share them with other Asian girls that share the same views or in private. If we look at the last two variables, what's interesting to note about the study is the way they ranked like on the dating preference scale was number 1 was white, number 2 was Latino, and number 3 was Asian and black. In terms of physical attractiveness, number 1 was Latino, number 2 was Asian, and number 3 was white and black. So interesting enough, Asians didn't rank first on either of these two metrics, but the results of the study were that participants were most likely to desire dating Asian men. You can see the numbers here on average, right? It was like Asian followed by Latino, followed by black, and then white was last. And I was a little surprised about this, but it kind of makes sense given that the first two questions are basically like about like racism. If you think about it, like anyone who responds to those questions will just like, it's gonna knock the score down of like the white guy. I'm just pointing these things out, my observations, because I feel like,
yeah, because there's plenty of Asian women that talk about white supremacy and, you know, white privilege and all these things, and yes, they always seem to end up dating white men because they want those privileges, they want those things that they are spouting about.
when you're looking at studies, you got to just like consider all the variables. You can't just look at the results and take it as like statement of fact, right? Because there's like a lot of nuances with how they, you know, get the results. The way I interpret the study is, all right, let's take like promotions, right? Like at work, the person that gets promoted is gonna be the person that like is well liked by everyone that no one hates. But there might be a case where there's like a superstar performer, like everyone loves the person, but then one person hates that person, and then that person won't get promoted, right? And that's kind of the same vibe I get from this study, which is that like Asian guys, they went out on top because they didn't necessarily crush any of the criteria. They weren't like superstars, like number one in really any of them, but they're above average on average. Now, what's my take on this study? First off, I want to applaud the researchers for taking an empirical look at racial dating preferences, because I feel like a lot of this stuff is like super subjective. Like even my videos, I'm not like a scientist or researcher or statistician. I'm just like speaking from personal anecdotal experience. That's actually my problem I have with the whole like red pill space, and a lot of the influencers, even like dating coaches, they make like sweeping generalizations. In reality, I feel like all of this stuff is like quite subjective. Your experience is going to vary a lot from like one location to another. Like even from
I agree with that. I agree that it is somewhat subjective to locations, just because, especially if you're an Asian man or a minority, if you're a minority in certain areas, you're considered exotic. And if you're a minority in other areas, you're just a normal person, right? And me being in California and LA, I'm a normal Asian guy. But if I was in, say, Louisiana, I would probably be exotic, right? So it does change the dynamic of dating. But I disagree with the general sweeping comments that we speak about women in the red pill space, because it's generally true. Yes, we don't speak all. Just because we generalize does not mean every single woman fits this criteria. It's these certain women are probably majority. Like even to me, 40% is a huge majority, because all the other percentages are probably not going to equal up to more than 40%.
From my own experience, dating in Seattle was like way harder, felt impossible, but then dating in Vegas was a lot better. What I'm trying to get at with all of this is it's cool to see people taking action to get data on dating and dating preferences, but this is the thing I want to call out. We've all heard the expression, watch what they do, not what they say. So this is especially the case with dating, where preference is very much a gray area.
See, like you say things about the red pill, but that's what the red pill tells and suggests you. So it's not just you disagree with red pill, you understand it yourself, that it is important, and it's important for men to understand it. Yes, I do agree with Chang that there are red pillars and people in our space that just kind of go about it a little bit harshly and a little bit different than how I would, but it is what it is. Everybody gets to do their own thing and have their own interpretations of things.
Well, the reason I talk about dating as an Asian guy is I feel like it's like one of the few areas as an Asian guy where you might face like some sort of subtle discrimination. Like someone can just brush off why they won't date you as a preference. I faced this a lot earlier in my life. You also can't really get a good answer on like why they won't date you, right? Like if you ask a girl why she isn't attracted to you, most likely she's gonna tell you,
we're just not compatible, you're a nice guy, but not for me. It's not you, but it's me.
But in reality, there's probably a reason that's more objective. Like you might be too fat, have bad acne. Some physical thing that leads her to not be attracted to you, or you're too needy, like kind of annoying, have a scarcity mindset and just give her like a bad vibe. To be honest, I'm sure the girl herself can't even quantify like why she isn't attracted to someone.
They can't. It is a feeling. It is a feeling that they get when they see you and when they're within your presence. It's that tingles. It's not something you can control, in a sense.
I just like is or isn't. I don't think girls spend all their time like thinking about like,
Oh, I don't like this guy because of like X, Y, and Z.
if anything, guys spend more time doing that, which
Yes.
is why like the whole like looks maxing space is getting out of hand. You know, they're analyzing facial ratio, like genetics, all this stuff. But in reality, it's like not that complex. The reason I bring this all up is because when you're analyzing data preferences, I just don't think you can really deduce what people say, right? Especially like what these girls are saying on an online survey. Because in reality, girls are gonna say one thing and then do another. I mean,
Correct.
shit, guys are gonna do the same thing. It's like human nature to have biases and respond in a way that might seem more PC or correct, but it's not reflective of reality. I feel like a better analysis is either a longitudinal study where you follow participants starting from a young age to an older age. Not to sound creepy, like just following someone around, but like you're like following them from just like multiple years or like decades, and then you just analyze what happens, right? Or an alternative is you just take a look at like past data or like objective data, like how many Asian girl white guy couples are there? How many Asian girl Asian couples are there? How many Asian girl Latino couples are there? How many Asian girl black couples are there? Because the truth is like the Latinos ranked really high on the study, but I rarely see like Asian girls and Latino guys, like at least
Asian girls and Latino guys. You're right. I don't see that too often. I do see Asian guys with Latino girls, though. That I do see pretty often. And sometimes I date Latino girls, too.
in the cities I've lived in. Yeah, I think that's like a better way to collect the study. And I just want to say like also 207, that's not enough people, right?
Yeah, that's so little.
Anything meaningful. So while I may seem like a Debbie Downer, like, oh, you're just like railing on the study and like shitting on it, I'm really not. I'm just speaking the truth, since my channel is all about recognizing reality for what it is and then strategizing and taking action to really make the most of your situation. This is the truth. It doesn't matter what one study says or what the general trend of things are. Like, yeah, it helps for people not to be like blatantly racist to your face, like from a self-esteem standpoint.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, everyone is their own n=1 sample size. So you should just like focus on the things you can control, and then also surround yourself with people who build you up. And I think that's like the best recipe for success, especially with like dating or like anything. I feel like life success, a lot of it comes from just like belief, mindset, having a positive mindset, having a strong social circle, supportive friends, and then just like leveling up yourself and building up others around you. The whole thing with chain retreats, right, is like I bring together a group of guys, like-minded guys, and then we just take action, hang out, and it's very much like a brotherhood, just like finding like-minded guys. Anyways, I do want to say I applaud the researchers again for taking action, taking a deep dive look into this topic. But with dating guys, I think there's like one thing to take away from this whole video. You must watch what girls do, not what they say.
Shout outs to Chang. He always does great content. I don't always cover him / agree with him, just because he's a little bit more blue pilled than I am personally, or even my space or my channel. But it's nice to get a take from a different perspective, a different person that thinks different from me, especially on this particular topic, right? Everybody gets to just understand other people's thought process, understand why they even think the way they think. And it's better to be that way because we can understand each other better. I don't understand why we just have to agree with everything with the other person. Me and my best friend, we don't agree with a lot of things, but we do also agree with a lot of things, which still makes us great friends. Please subscribe down below. I really appreciate that. Catch you next time. Ciao.